Alrighty. In this video, we're going to be looking at text. And a funny side story here. So I was at a gym many years ago, and there was this song. It was called Birthday Sex. And in the gym, I couldn't really hear the music that well because it wasn't blasting, which thank God it wasn't. And I thought the guy said birthday text. And I thought it was like the nicest thing ever. I was like, oh, that's nice to send people texts on their birthday saying happy birthday. But then, of course, I learned that that was not what he was saying. But here we are, years later, I'm doing a tutorial, and we're talking about text, and I'm still remembering that moment. So now that you've heard my entire life story, what we're going to do is what we usually do, look at the docs, see what kind of things we could do with this component, and then we're going to do a couple examples and then wrap it up there. So let's get to the docs. So it says text component is used to render text and paragraphs without an interface. It renders a p tag or paragraph tag by default. So we see it being brought in right here, just text, which is cool, not a lot of complicated stuff. And then it says to increase the font size of the text, you could pass the font size prop. And don't feel bad if you're like me and for some odd reason you just cannot remember font size. You remember size, font hyphen size. I don't know why. I could just never remember this prop right here, so don't feel bad. And we see this ginormous 6XL size, and it goes all the way down to extra small right here. What does it look like in the code? Well, they're using a stack right here. Don't worry too much about that. It's just to keep everything in order. And then we have the different font sizes coming down here with pretty much the same repeating text in here. All you need to do with your eyes is look at the font size right here. Cool. Now, this is the other thing that I think is pretty interesting, is that you could truncate your text. So pass the is truncated prop to render an ellipsis when the text exceeds the width of the viewport, or max width prop. So we have lorem ipsum is a placeholder text commonly used in the graphic print publishing industries. What's after that F? It's, of course, for previewing layouts and visual mockups, but we have is truncated right here, so it's not going to cut down to the next line or wherever, because this is all the space that it has. So it adds this ellipsis right here, and I think that looks kind of cool, to be honest, because what you can do theoretically with these kinds of things, if you have some kind of article, information, something or other, you could either have like a paywall or some functionality, or maybe a preview of something going on until a user is signed into their account, to truncate some basic information here at the top. And if they want to continue reading it, accessing it, interacting with it, you could use the strategy of having is truncated up here. And it says, likewise, if you like to truncate the text after a specific number of lines, you could pass number of lines prop and set it to the desired number of lines. And it says, pro tip, you can also apply number of lines responsively. So we see that right here. We have number of lines. We have 2. So after 2 lines, the stuff gets, cut off here. But here we have an array. So we're going from the smallest to the largest screen size here. So if it's on like a small viewport here, it's going to be 1. And if it gets to about roughly the tablet size, 2. And when you're on like one of those jumbo size screens, like what I have, you could show 3 lines of text. So that way, as your user moves from one device to another, it's just a nice way to be like, oh, you have more real estate to work with. Well, let me show you more text and not ruin your overall experience, because it would be kind of odd going from a mobile phone to a full size screen in case, for example, mine is 27 inches. And you're like, why am I only seeing 1 line? This all kind of feels a little bit funny. So you could still come in here, font size 50 pixels. You could slap the color tomato in here. I guess they really like the color tomato over at the Chakra working group over there. But yeah, feel free to use whatever colors you want to in here. It's all customizable. And we could also override the element as well, which I think is pretty cool. So you have all these things that you've probably seen before using HTML. You may not have used them all, and that's fine. I haven't either. But you could come down here and we just have this generic open and closing tag. Don't mind that at all. And we have text, and we just have these line breaks in here, just separating things up. But we have these text components in here, and they're not coming in as the paragraph tags anymore. This one for italic is being rendered as that in the browser. So is this kind of element in here, or the abbreviation is the abbreviation element? Because don't forget, as is a very powerful keyword that you could give to any of your components to tell it to act or be like another something other than the default. In this case, it's a paragraph tag, and other things, it's a div. So don't forget you have the power to do this as well, which I think is pretty cool. And also, you could dynamically do things here as well. So maybe you have a strike through, but you could have as, and you could have P for paragraph, but maybe as you're making a to-do list, you could switch this from a P to an S for a strike through element. So that way you get this right here, and you don't have to do any other special rendering or CSS magic right here. You could just have some really easy built-in functionality that you could have like a use state to, maybe toggle some of your items. Here are some properties down here. We have the casing, align, color scheme, decoration. There's a lot of things that you could do with your text that I think is pretty cool, and makes it pretty easy and understandable to use out of the box. And let's just do the coding. I like doing examples, so let's get to it. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the text here. But one thing I'm going to introduce, again, it's been a while if you're going linearly through the series, is a container. And I found that kind of works because there's some things about when I just throw text out there that make it, I don't know, it looks kind of funny when you go to like gigantic sizes. So let's add a container, and I'll show you some of the basic things you could do with text. So what I'm going to do right here is, since I'm looking at this and it's a lot, just to make this a little bit quicker, I'm going to copy and paste over the example, and then we're going to talk through it here, because it really is a lot to kind of type. And it's a lot of the same stuff. So what we have here is we have text, and you can see from the bottom to the top, we could go from small up to 6XL. Let's see how this looks when it renders out. And we see that it's, small up to just this gigantic text, right? And so what's interesting here is, subscribe to my channel, please. I know a few of these just say sub to my channel. A lot of these, when I did the snippets of code, were late at night, and so I just kind of wrote whatever came to mind. But we notice up here, we have number of lines 1. What happens if we change this? We see that it comes down to 2. So you could actually set the number of lines that will appear. So say you have like an article and you want to show like the first 6 lines, and then you have like some kind of, paywall. You could manually control right here how much of that is shown, all of it, just a few lines, whatever it is. And so I think that's a really cool feature. This right here is truncated, will just trail off into this ellipse if it goes just longer than the space allows here. So if we come up here and set to false, it wraps all the way around, as you can see. And it will keep going and keep going and keep going. So a number of lines is kind of like a more specified controllable version of is truncated, which I think is pretty cool. But this is the basics you could do with text here. And so what I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to do another copy and paste, because it's like a million of these in a row with slight variations. And I'm going to show you how you could transform text to a bunch of other stuff. So stay tuned. Alrighty, so welcome back here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to make this VStack up here. And I know I'm kind of, at this point, jamming, a bunch of stuff in here. I have this container, a box. I'm going to have a VStack now. Like I said, none of these are ultra necessary. You're not going to be typing a text, component, and you're like, oh, I need a VStack or this or that necessarily. This is just for ease of use. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to copy what I have on the off the monitor here. And let me show you what I got. And something is breaking right here because I overwrote the box up here. So what we see now is, I just wanted to have it in this VStack here because I think it just lines it up easier. So we see we have the text, we have this as. Remember, as is like everything is a box, but also as is kind of like the other power move you can make with Chakra UI. And you can essentially look at a particular kind of component and say, I want you to be this, or I want you to function with this in mind. And so as we come down here, we can see the italics, we can see the abbreviation here, a citation, deletion, as the keyboard. We've already, gone over and covered that. And this is just another way of like getting to and doing something incredibly similar, right? Which is cool with Chakra is that it gives you so many formats that are just out of the box, but then you could come back through and just kind of engineer your own solutions, and it's, still all kosher at the end of the day. So this is how you could use text and not just use the font sizes we previously seen, but you could also come in and tell this text specifically if you want to behave in another unique, kind of way that will give meaning and emphasis to your content you're putting out there. So if you like what I'm doing, like, share, subscribe, all that other good jazz, and I'll see y'all in the next video.